You can be brand number 87 and still make millions and millions and millions.
And everyone needs to measure things. Everyone needs to be able to prove ROI.
All revenue that is not performance market revenue is brand revenue.
Insights into the innovations and revolutions of the marketing world. Welcome to the Marketing Scientists Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Scientists Podcast. Today I'm joined by Peep Laja, founder of Wynter, CXL, and Speero, and one of the sharpest minds in B2B marketing and strategy. If you're working in B2B, you probably have heard of Wynter. What Pep talked to us about is the recent launch of brand measurement through Wynter. And so we're going to dig into all of that. So let's dive in. All right, Pep, this has been a long time in making. So I'm super excited about finally having you on the pod and talking to you about this. First question, you're based in Austin, right? Is that right?
I am.
And so the event that you hold, Spring, that's also in Austin. I have major FOMO because every year I see amazing photos from it. How was it this year? What was your highlight from that event?
Well, it is designed for human connection, and that is always the highlight, when the traditional conference is, it's a hotel, it's cold, and it has 100 vendors, and the hungry SDRs are chasing you down, and this is totally different. Like, there are no SDR, no sales allowed, no booths, chilled environment, just to have real conversations, and so that's always the highlight.
All right. Love to hear it. Okay. So you have seen a lot in the B2B marketing world over the last decade. If I'm not wrong, you started CXL, is that right? Before starting Wynter?
Yes.
And now you've got the brand tracking stuff. You also have your podcast. I think it's called How to Win, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to ask you a real sort of softball question, which is there a pattern or insight that you have seen from all of your work that still surprises you? Something that even sort of seasoned operators tend to overlook. Is there anything like that?
In terms of how to grow businesses, or?
Well, think of it as like, maybe this is some type of a popular opinion that you disagree with, or some type of a thing that's just everyone should be paying more attention to. Is there something that we are all missing? And, you obviously talk to a lot of people in the B2B marketing world. And is there one thing that just stands out to you as like, this is a slam dunk and yet nobody's really paying attention to it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but I think it's more like there are some things that everybody knows but still undervalues. Okay. For instance, the size of your category, I think, determines most of your success. And because the size of the category is directly related to how important that thing is. Email marketing automation is ginormous, maybe the biggest category of all time, because every single company has email marketing, every single one. And, our buddy Adam Robinson sold his email marketing company that literally said on their homepage, email marketing for everyone, like the generic thing you can have, and you're still able to sell it for north of $10 million, like, you can be a brand number 87 and still, make millions and millions and millions. So I think people underestimate that. And second, I think is like, everybody knows the concept of value proposition. Oh yeah, we should have one and we should communicate it. And I think most of companies' efforts should go towards refining it, because if you promise something that the market wants, they will buy. And if they don't want it, or they want it less, you'll make less money, and so on. So if there's a struggling startup out there, I would focus all the effort there. And of course, the value prop determines the product you sell, and et cetera, et cetera.
Makes complete sense. Why do you think people don't appreciate that category size point? Because I completely agree with you, right? There's a natural growth rate of a business based on that category sizing. And yet most people don't seem to pay attention to it. And it doesn't factor into any of the goal setting and planning conversations ever, right? We just like go by, hey, let's just try to grow 10%. quarter over quarter, or 20%, or 30, like just random numbers rather than taking this top-down category view.
Yeah, VCs have learned this long time ago, right? That's the number one thing they look at. Like, what's the TAM? And your average typical founder is that's doesn't come naturally. What's the TAM? What do you mean? And I think we're also over-indexing on this idea that every business needs to be new and groundbreaking. We need to innovate, at least when it comes to SaaS. And so it's like, well, wait, that market is already busy, and it's true, it is busy. But I think you should still go for it, because on the opposite end, you can be truly differentiated in the category of one, and nobody buys you because nobody cares. This is why most startups die, right? Because nobody cares about that problem.
Okay, I like it. No, that's great. And part of the reason why we started a marketing measurement company is for that reason. Everyone needs to measure things. Everyone needs to be able to prove ROI. And I like what you all have done with the recent announcement with your brand tracker. Does that tell me about sort of what led you to launch that? And then I have a bunch of questions about how B2B companies should think about brand. I have lots of opinions. I'm a big fan of the How Brands Grow book. But even that book gets some interesting takes from both sides of the aisle. So I'm curious to hear your take and go dive deep into it.
Yeah, well, we started as a message testing tool, point solution for message testing 4 years ago. And it was the classic thing where I was like, this is a unique product. Nobody else in the world does this. And, surely this is the right way to do entrepreneurship. And, we were right. We were the only game in town in the whole world, still today. I mean, services, yes, but productized. And we're not making billions selling it. And why is that? Is that just companies are not doing message testing that often. It is not any CMO's top 5 problem. And and hence there's less money there. And I mean, competition is also a sign of how much pre-existing demand there is. So we built a business on it only because we were creating demand for it from scratch. And boy, that's hard. It's so hard. The way we work is we're a two-sided marketplace, like Uber, riders and drivers. We have SaaS companies typically that give us money. And on the other side, it's people with jobs, director of this, VP of that in various industries, various company sizes. And so we facilitate exchanges between the two sides, and really doesn't need to be message testing. It can be anything. And today it's mostly ICP surveys, actually, research. Surveys is number one use case. And so brand tracking brand tracking is a survey. It's a specialized survey. And so it was kind of like an obvious thing to add onto the platform. And now I'm always thinking, what is the market already doing? What do they know that they should be doing already? And B2B is always, 10 years behind consumer, or maybe even 37 years behind. So if you want to look to the future, what's going to happen in 10 years, you look at the B2C today. And consumer research, obviously huge with consumer companies, and so is the focus on brand, because they learned a long time ago that differentiation is not really possible. Every product has equally good alternatives, soap, detergent, cars, doesn't do any category. And so that is the fate of any B2B category as well. And we already see with mature categories, we go to task management companies, your Asanas and ClickUps, it's same shit, different UI. You can do everything with every single tool. There's no difference. And so the only difference is brand. And then, there are compelling data points that make a case for why companies should invest in brand marketing. And then you should measure it, because how do you know if what you're doing is working?
Okay, so let's talk about this. I think you're also a fan of the How Brands Grow book and methodology. Part of the criticism that book gets, and this is not coming from me, I'm a fan, I write about it on LinkedIn quite often, but one of our customers actually pushed back on me and said, hey, all of the research that book is based on is large companies and large sort of consumer companies. And I'm curious if you have thought about that. Like, is that stuff applicable to the B2B world, and is that stuff applicable to smaller companies who are still kind of figuring out how to get to a point where they can sustain their market share, right? They're sort of trying to like grab market share from everybody. And so I'm curious if that colored your thinking at all when you were designing this brand tracking stuff.
Yeah, well, to me, this is giving a bigger framework, so you see beyond tactics. But of course, when we talk about grabbing market share, as like it's in the book, is like the biggest contributor to market brand awareness is actual penetration, and by that they mean number of people consuming your product. If you're HubSpot, the more users in HubSpot in various companies, the more people are aware that you exist. And so, and of course, if you start as a upstart challenger, a business, which both of us are, then obviously in the beginning you have zero market share and zero brand awareness. And so all you have is your immediate circle. You tell your 5 friends that, hey, I launched. You post on LinkedIn and whoever follows you. And so that is the way to start building awareness before you have actual customers, outbound direct response advertising, things like that, social content. And all of those still fall within those laws, right? And the law of double jeopardy, like no matter what you do, you're going to take on HubSpot. HubSpot's still going to win and beat your ass. And there's nothing you can do about it. The only way to build a new HubSpot is category creation, and which means totally new innovation, which enter ChatGPT, totally new thing. They were not a new CRM, like totally new thing. That's how you build giant companies. And of course, there needs to be enough demand to do that. So if you play in existing categories, you just have to accept that, okay, I'm never going to be as big as HubSpot. And that's all. If you're VC backed, then you're f***ed, obviously. But if you're bootstrapped, you can still build generational wealth.
There we go. All right. Well, one of us is VC backed. You haven't taken any VC, right? I remember.
No.
Got it. Okay, cool. Okay, let's talk about then the measurement itself. So when customers use your brand tracker, what are they actually measuring, right? And this is my pet peeve of like we conflate brand and brand marketing and branding, right? So when you think about measuring brand, what does that mean to you? And talk to us about sort of what's the best practice here.
Absolutely. So there are basically 3 quant metrics and 1 qual metric, and you can add whatever on top that you want. But essentially, you want to know what is your unaided awareness. So people say, hey, name a CRM. And like, are they naming you? Then aided awareness. There's a list of players in a category. It's like, which one of these have you heard of? Or it could be, a sliding scale. Never heard. I've heard, not sure what they do, all the way to very familiar. So like 2 types of awareness, and then preference. So, because like I know the Ford car company, and I'm in a market for a new car. I'm not even going to look at what Ford is. They're not in the consideration set, even though I know them very well. So it's important to know if your category buyer is considering you. So it could be because you're selling to a different segment. So everybody knows MailChimp. I think 100% market awareness, 99.9. Yet your Microsoft, bad example, they have their own, but Salesforce, bad example again. Gong is looking for an email marketing software. Let me tell you, MailChimp is not in a consideration set because it's SMB focused. It's just not a fit, even though they know it. So and so there's another reason why you might not be in the preference. We just did our own market research study actually on the category of marketing automation for B2B SaaS mid-market. And so what we learned was that Pardot has very high awareness in the market, some 80%. I forget the exact numbers. Very low consideration set by mid-market SaaS companies, even though they cater to that segment. And the reason is the perception gap. So that's the third thing that you measure is like, what is the market's opinion about you, perception. Like, do they think you're legacy? Do they think you're buggy, hard to use? Do they think that you're innovative, amazing, cheap, expensive? And you want to manage your brand, and of course, brand is what they say you are, not what you say you are. And so you want to know, are they thinking of you the way you want to be thought of? All right, like measuring the perception gap, and so if you're a young company, 5 years old or younger, they likely, most of the market has no opinion about you because they've never used you,
Yeah.
And if you're part of it, everybody has an opinion because you've been around so long. And if you're an old brand, it might be a lot of baggage that you're carrying.
So you talked about, just to kind of summarize, right? The unaided awareness, the aided awareness, perception,
Preference.
And preference. Are you providing predetermined sort of attributes that the survey takers are responding to, or are those more qualitative? Like, how do you even determine what should go into that, perception and preference, given that you have to map it to something, right? Or is it the same?
Perception is an open-ended question. It's open-ended. So, right, what do you think about Paramark? Like go nuts.
Cool.
And so you don't know what they're gonna say. Unaided awareness is the same. It's an open-ended question.
Right.
So when it comes to aided awareness, then the company running the survey, they know their competitors. So they're going to put their brand and their 7 closest competitors, and then have customers do preference and aided awareness among those brands. Now, you mentioned attributes. So it's another thing that commonly is research is like, are you associating certain brand attributes with brands? And this is more common in, I want to say, in consumer brands, because they're selling emotional benefits, and B2B companies typically don't sell any emotional benefits. I mean, other than maybe safety and, like buy Salesforce because you can't go wrong, it will sell. Or HubSpot, I know it will integrate with anything. That's an attribute, I guess. But like ease of use could even add. So you might, what you also might want to do is like a matrix question. Here are all the brands, and here are all the attributes: ease of use, ease of implementation, integrations, and have them rate each brand based on, like, I think they're really good at this or bad, or whatever. But that's a secondary dimension. Compared to awareness, preference, perception.
Have you thought about category entry points as a thing to include?
Absolutely.
Do you recommend that? Do you not recommend that? Like, is that part of the default?
Yeah. In my limited research in B2B is that your typical B2B marketer just does not think in terms of category entry points, and is not intentionally cultivating category entry points with their marketing, with their ads, which is short-sighted, and they will get there. Like B2C, they figured it out a long time ago. And there is some use case. I want to say use case marketing is the same as category entry points. Like, I want to know what to use your tool for. And we also get to this one-hit wonder syndrome where most companies are known for one thing, Like Wynter is primarily known for message testing, which people like think, oh, when I need to do message, they go to Wynter. However, we do a bunch of other stuff that they don't know, and this is our shortcoming, that they don't think of us for other use cases. And so certainly, when you do brand research, you could ask, name all the. When would you turn to Wynter, for instance, or like whatever your brand is, or you could have them fill in the blank. Next time I need to measure marketing effectiveness, I'm gonna use fill in the blank.
Right.
So very important. Yeah, I think, but that to measure that, company first needs to embed that thinking into their marketing.
Yeah. It's fascinating, right? That B2B hasn't yet come around to it, even though, we all talk about it on LinkedIn all the time, but it hasn't jumped the shark yet. Okay. Now talk to me about some pitfalls when people are doing this type of brand measurement. Like, are there obvious things that people get wrong? And are there ways in which you all help your customers, avoid those pitfalls? Are there things like that that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I guess two main things that you can get wrong is that you survey the wrong people, like people who are not category buyers, because you need to survey category buyers. And in B2B, obviously, there's mostly there's no single buyer. It's a committee, so you need to survey all the people that are involved. And like research makes it clear that C-level only gets involved to approve or like maybe help you narrow down the final vendor when you have the final 3. But like the shortlist building is done at much lower levels, director or manager levels. And when it comes to developer tools, it's the frontline developers doing the shortlist building for tools often. And so targeting the right people, you can get that wrong. And of course, when you design a survey, there's always danger that if you don't know what you're doing, you're asking the wrong questions, or in the wrong way, heavily biasing the audience. So, I mean, using templates is the easiest way to get around it. Like, I know that's what Wynter customers do. Like, we have templates that obviously you can change however you want, but most customers, 90+% start with a template.
And do you all sort of put some minimum guardrails in place for that audience selection? So, you should try to get to a certain volume of people for it to be statistically valid. How do you do I think the biggest issue that I found, I did a whole bunch of surveys in my last job, and I was a VP of product marketing and customer marketing. And the biggest question in my mind was always, how do we find these people to take the survey? And how do I know that this wasn't just I paid $50, I paid $25, they barely spent any attention and time on it. And, is it reflective of the true audience? Like, are there ways that you're able to solve for that? Or is that, still very much depend on the brand, like they're bringing the audience to you?
Yeah. Finding the audience is a huge major pain in the butt, which is a key reason why I got into this business. We'll take care of that for the customers. If you want to do it on your own, good luck. It will take forever. And people will vastly underestimate how time intensive, what a hassle it is. And if it's not a core part of a job, then it will never happen. And also the market is flooded with junk providers, and people fall for junk providers because essentially the pitch is the same, except you will pay $5 per CMO response, which is fantasy land. These are no CMOs, let me tell you that. And there are some major players that are committing fraud on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, wow.
I can throw shade at many very specific brands here. These are like the old school panel companies, big ones too. And they are consumer panel companies actually. And they say, oh, sure, we can do B2B too. And the verification is probably not non-existent, but it's not good enough. So if you want C-level, VP level responses and you pay under $50 per response, like it's not real. It's not real. You should expect to pay $100 or more. Otherwise, they just won't participate.
Okay, good. So it's primarily based on sort of the value, but you all have.
Oh yeah, the sample sizes you asked. Well, this is a math calculation. So there's a minimum that nobody recommends going below, and that's 100 respondents. In consumer research, the standard is 800 to 1,000. This is very common in consumer research. And the problem, why is such high numbers in consumer research, is that a consumer is extremely diverse. You sell jeans, Levi jeans. Everybody buys Levi jeans, right? So you have Californians, Floridians, men, women, young, old, goths, and like corporate suit people, and VC vest guys, and everybody, right? And in between. So to have a representative sample of all those diverse groups, you need a huge sample size. And consumer research costs nothing, like 50 cents per response. It's so cheap. Now, in B2B, we are studying a very homogeneous population, extremely narrow. So it's the VPs of product marketing at SaaS companies with 250 to 500 employees. This is, and what's the total TAM? How many companies are even exist in the universe? It might be like 5,000, 3,000 companies. That's your maximum TAM. It's very common, all right? And so if you survey 1,000 people, you survey 25% of the whole TAM, it's just not realistic. It's just undoable, not possible. And everybody who says claims the opposite is living in fantasy land or selling you some bullshit consumer panel. And so a 100-person panel will give you the data at a 10% margin of error. So if you say 50% awareness, could be 60, could be 40. For most companies, as a benchmark, as an annual benchmark, it's good enough. Because also brand tracking is not for small potatoes like you and me, really.
Right.
I think brand tracking becomes, if you're under 10 million in revenue, most of your marketing's paid marketing. Most of your paid marketing is not brand marketing. Content and stuff, of course, word of mouth, all that. But if your sales force, all your marketing is brand marketing. So it is mainly the game for the bigger companies. I want to say, 10 million revenue is like the floor, kind of. And it starts getting very interesting if you're 50 million, and mandatory if you're north of 100 million a year. Right. Because then it's all about the brand and mind share and mental availability. That all becomes a thing. And you can even have a chance of unaided awareness, because companies that have less than 50 million revenue, that they usually get zero unaided awareness, zero.
Yeah.
And so if you measure, we had 15% awareness and now we have 30%, that's the directional accuracy you want. If you go double the panel size, 200 people, margin of error goes to 7.5%, but it costs 2 times more.
Yeah.
And if you want to do 400, which a lot of people recommend, literature recommends, but academics, they have no budget. It's imaginary. It's only math on a paper. Nobody pays for nothing, right?
Yeah.
So 5% margin of error, 400 people, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. So I think just to get some sort of an idea, I think 100 people is good enough for most brands, unless you're north of 500 million, then you can afford anything.
Gotcha. Very helpful. And I think our audience will find that very, very tactical as well. How often are and I know you just launched this, so you might not even have data, but how often you mentioned annual. So do you think about the product usage on an annual basis, or do you think that you will end up with brands who are doing it on a quarterly basis or semi-annual basis?
Brand tracking?
Yeah.
It depends on the brand size and how much money are you spending on brand marketing. So brand marketing, based on research, is like it's like a 6-month lag. You do a 6-month long campaign, and only then the awareness will have improved by some percentages. And it's in a more mature industry category like CRM, email marketing, change is very slow. Yeah. In a new emerging category, change can be extremely rapid. Like, let's take AI SDR companies. There's no clear winner. I have no idea even who the top 10 might be. I mean, I know some names, but I don't actually know. But it's going to be a huge category, right? Lots of money.
Yeah.
And there, if one of those brands starts to pump that precious VC money into brand marketing today, they will make huge gains in awareness. And probably all those tools are exactly the same. So the one with the most awareness will win. Not with the best product will not win. And eventually they'll all be the best products. I don't think.
No, that's great. Okay, so you've said brand marketing a couple of times in the last couple of answers. So I want to get your definition. What is brand marketing, and what is everything that is not brand marketing? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so anything that is not brand marketing, aka performance marketing or direct response marketing, is a type of marketing where you want the user to take immediate action, and you can count immediate ROI. And by immediate, I mean the ROI is within 60 days. So I drive ad campaigns and fill out my demo forms, and then drive pipeline, and dollars come out the other end. That's not brand marketing. Brand marketing is your inbound leads that, like clicked on no ads. So brand marketing, first of all, has the condition that you are not measuring ROI in a traditional sense of I want clear financial returns in 60 days. I think the lagging metric is not even revenue. I mean, surely, yes, it is. Ultimately, it's all about money. And I personally have this take, and you might have a opposing view here because you're maybe more stricter here with numbers. But I think that if you all revenue that is not performance market revenue is brand revenue. And so if you want to know how much revenue brand is driving, just take out your direct response marketing campaigns and what's left. And maybe if you do outbound sales, okay, take that out. And what's left, that's brand. And for most businesses, I bet it's most of the revenue, like for HubSpot for sure.
It's an interesting question. The way I think about this is a little bit different, but I'm curious to get your take here. We should workshop this. In that definition, one of the things that ends up happening is it's still possible for brand marketing, the way you define it, to have short-term impact, even if that's not the intent.
Absolutely. And I didn't get to the definition part which is brand marketing has a very particular job. And the job is not to drive leads. It is to they educate. It's a communications job, and it's fairly straightforward. It's what is it? It is a market research tool. What's it called? It's called Wynter. And when should I use it? Oh, I should use it whenever I'm wondering what my ICP needs or wants. So you train this category, enterprise marketing, really. Yeah. When do I use this tool and what is it called? I need to remember these things. That's brand marketing. And then it's the ROI calculation part.
Perfect. I love that. And in that way, we think very alike. I love that type of marketing. And yes, the way it shows up, it's not going to be direct response in the same session, click through, but there are ways to understand the short-term impact of that type of marketing. And there are ways that you have to understand the long-term impact of that type of marketing. And that long-term impact is, some type of awareness or some other type of metric that I think is useful. On that point, I think of awareness as a necessary but insufficient measure of success. And what I mean by that is, to your point earlier, right? You could have great aided or unaided awareness, but you fall down on, salience or consideration or what have you. And so when you talk to, first, do you agree? Do you disagree with that point of, that framing that awareness is necessary but insufficient, or what's your take?
Yeah, it's not all of it, but it's a prerequisite. If they're not aware of you, they will certainly not buy you. So it's step one. Yep. Step two is then consideration set, because the holy grail is, are you in the short list?
Yep.
I think that is the goal of the brand marketing. I'm not using any measurement attribution tool at Wynter whatsoever, And so your goal would be that if now that one day when I'm ready to buy such a tool, I think of you. I actually don't know if I'm your ICP or not, but that would be that. Now I think of you.
Right. Okay, so building on top of that, in addition to awareness, are there other metrics that you think that teams should be looking at to understand that, overall trajectory? Are you doing the right thing or the wrong thing? And, people have thrown out things like Google search query volume, right? I generally think that that's probably not a bad thing to look at, is right. How many people are searching for Wynter on Google, or, following the Wynter page on LinkedIn. Are there other measures or things that you've thought about that are good proxies for awareness?
Yeah, the share of search, I mean, there's some compelling evidence about it, and it really depends on your brand name, Yes. If you're called something that is a real word, then you're screwed, and there's nothing that can help you, If you're usertesting.com, you have no idea if people are searching for the thing, user testing, or your brand. The same with user interviews, or, if had you named your company marketingmeasurement.com, like you would never know how many people.
Great SEO. Great SEO. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, it used to be probably in 2002, but times have moved on. Yeah, so I think that is a project. And in my case, like Wynter is not a name, but so it's not a word that people use, but actually the search volume is polluted with it's because there's a bunch of people with the first name Wynter.
Yeah.
And I don't know what percentage of that is me. So I mean, it's something, right? It's extremely cheap to track this. Extremely cheap.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other proxy because everything else becomes qualitative research, because there's like this self-reported attribution. I mean, you can't make any market level conclusions based on those. It's interesting to see. It's qualitative for sure. Like, from my podcast,
Right.
but it doesn't mean anything to like what is your general awareness about you.
Right. Okay, so on that point, and kind of going back a couple of minutes, you said you don't have any attribution tool. By the way, we don't either, right? So we don't use Paramark for Paramark. Our customer is typically spending 5 million, 10 million or more in marketing before we recommend using something like Paramark. In the early stages, it's just a different measurement game. And obviously, I understand sort of how to do it for our company, but I'm curious, how do you make decisions about where you're going to spend your marketing and sales energy if you are not using something like an attribution tool? And I'm not asking that in a trick question. I'm like generally like, what is the best practice from your?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small company, like we're like a 5 million a year company, so we don't spend that much money,
Right.
My annual ad budget, I want to say, is like 200K.
Right.
And Google Analytics and UTM tags is plenty good for us at this stage. And we usually run like, one campaign at a time. And so attribution is probably not 100% accurate, but good enough for our use cases.
No, I love what you said, right? So one thing at a time. Let's talk more about that. What do you mean when you say one campaign at a time? Tell me more.
Yeah. So for instance, we have various LinkedIn campaigns. And it's mainly thought leadership ads. So I post something, it does well. A week after the organic post, I edit it, add a CTA, UTM tags. And now it's easy to measure, and beyond the impressions and stuff like that. We have experimented with various other ad units in LinkedIn, but mostly they quickly become too expensive to justify at our.
Sure.
We're not rich enough for that yet. Google ads really, like we've experimented with various ads, and also it's all small scale, and easy to track what happens. Did they sign up, and then did they buy something? Newsletter advertising, same thing. CTA always comes with UTM tags, so we can then track, did they sign up, did they buy. So it's we're not juggling 150 campaigns where this UTM tag management becomes overwhelming.
And going back to your point about, direct response marketing versus brand marketing, do you think of those type of tactics, especially your thought leadership ads on LinkedIn, do you think of them as brand marketing, or do you think of them as direct response marketing, or do you not care about a clean separation between the two?
Yeah, I don't really classify them in any way in my head. I guess if I had to define it, I would think it's brand, because really I'm associating us with certain topics, right? It's category entry point marketing. So I'm talking about brand measurement and the importance of brand, and I'm selling you ideas, right?
Yep.
I want you to think about these ideas. And I know that single post is not going to do shit, but like if I keep hammering this for 6 months, maybe you start thinking about it, so that's really the goal, the demand creation. And most B2B companies are not doing brand tracking today. Overwhelming majority, 99% are not doing it at all. So it's kind of a greenfield marketing opportunity for me. And like the classic market research agencies do this, right? You can go to Ipsos and they'll be happy to charge you $250,000 and take 4 months to give you a beautiful PowerPoint.
All right, I'm going to give you an idea.
And we do this in 2 days at like fraction of a cost.
Oh yeah, everybody who's listening, and if you're in B2B, go check out Wynter. I remember using Wynter, I think 3 or 3.5 years ago when I was helping another startup friend think through their positioning and messaging, and I started using it. I'm like, this is amazing, and so big fan of it from the early days. And I'm now interested to check out and maybe do some brand tracking. We're a little bit early. We're a similar stage company as you all are. So I don't know that I can justify the spend yet, but maybe someday as we grow. One question that I have for you, actually not a question, I was going to give you an idea. Okay. So if you are thinking about trying out different messaging and creative and different type of thought leadership ads, one tactic for you to deploy more dollars in an easy way without worrying about tracking is taking those same thought leadership ads and increasing your spend, but doing it in a specific geography. And so running a DIY test. So imagine you're doing it just in Washington, and then you're looking at your traffic in Washington and seeing if that traffic had an inflection point that did not look like all the other traffic in all the other states. And so what you're trying to do is say, it doesn't matter if people clicked on it or not. What matters is the aggregate volume of traffic /leads /sign-up forms from the state of Washington. Did it move up or not within a certain 6 to 8 week time period? So that's an easy way for you to isolate the effect of any given marketing campaign or advertising.
So was the fluctuation from that geo more than 10%, like more the average fluctuation?
Precisely. So there's a natural noise in your metric, right, that goes up and down. So you're trying to get above that noise in that particular geography, and your CAC, so you can say, okay, I'm trying to get 20% higher in Washington. And so that 20% would equate to this much possible revenue, and therefore I'm willing to pay Y dollars. And that becomes a very easy DIY approach of doing testing without any fancy software, right? Just your Google Analytics and your existing tracking is good enough. So when we do advertising, we haven't started yet, but when we do start, that's what we would do for ourselves. This is a very basic incrementality testing concept. And it becomes more complicated when, to your point, you have 5 channels and 10 different types of campaigns. It becomes harder to do this math, and you need like dedicated data scientists or software. But at your scale, at my scale, we can probably DIY it with just 1 or 2 states. So hopefully that was helpful in terms of how you measure some new campaigns. Awesome. How do people sign up? Where do they go? They just go to wynter.com and easy to sign up?
Yeah, I mean, it's designed as a self-service BLG tool. I mean, eventually you want to talk to somebody if you want a larger 5-figure purchase, because most people can't put 20K on their credit card. But if you want to just do like one message list or whatever, you can with a credit card.
Amazing. Everyone go check out wynter.com, put in your credit card, go get yourself a brand tracker or a message testing, highly recommended. And yeah, Pep, thank you for joining me. This was fun. I learned something new and excited to check out the new tool. And if you don't follow Pep, you're missing out. So go also give him a follow on LinkedIn. And maybe we'll do this again, Pep, in a few months.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
There you have it, folks. That was Pep from Wynter and their new brand measurement tooling for B2B. So go check it out if you haven't already, and tune in again next week for another great episode.